The night was quiet, almost too quiet. The small town lay asleep under the blanket of stars, and the forest at the edge of the valley whispered with the sound of crickets. Ethan, a simple man with a restless heart, often walked alone when sleep would not come. He liked the silence, the feeling of being the only soul awake when the world seemed frozen. But tonight, silence broke in the most violent way. From the sky came a sudden flash, bright, unnatural, like a wound tearing across the heavens. A roaring sound followed, louder than thunder, deeper than any storm. The ground trembled beneath Ethan's feet as he looked up, his eyes wide. Something was falling, burning, cutting across the dark sky like a fiery arrow. For a moment, he thought it was a meteor, but the way it moved, zigzagging, struggling, almost alive, told him this was no stone from space. This was something else. The object screamed through the night and vanished beyond the trees. A few seconds later, a boom shook the forest, followed by fire lighting up the horizon. The still night was gone. The forest was alive with chaos. Ethan's heart raced. His instincts screamed at him to run back home, to stay safe like everyone else. But another voice inside pushed him forward. Curiosity, courage, or maybe foolishness, he did not know. He only knew he had to see. He had to find out what had just fallen from the sky. He hurried down the dirt path, branches scratching his arms as he entered the forest. The air was thick with smoke, glowing orange from the distant flames. Birds screeched and fled into the night. The smell of burning metal mixed with earth filled his nose. Each step closer made his pulse pound louder. He was afraid, yes, but he could not stop. Something deep inside told him this was important. When Ethan reached the crash site, his breath caught in his throat. Before him lay a broken craft. Nothing, like any plane he had ever seen. It was sleek, curved, almost alive in design, but torn apart by fire. Sparks crackled, strange lights blinked, and the air shimmered with heat. He took a step closer, eyes wide, his mind refusing to believe. This was no human machine. This was not from Earth. Then he heard it, a weak sound, a cough, a whisper. His body froze. He thought he was alone, but now he knew someone, or something, was here. Moving cautiously, he walked around the wreckage. And there, lying on the ground near the glowing metal, was a figure. At first, he thought it was a woman. She had a human shape, delicate and slender. But as he stepped closer, the truth struck him. Her skin glowed faintly with a silver light, as if the stars themselves lived beneath her flesh. Her hair, long and flowing, shimmered with strange colors. Her eyes, half open, burned with pain and fear, yet also with something he could not name. She was not human, she was an alien, and she was hurt. Ethan froze, every part of his body screaming danger. He should run, he thought. He should turn around and pretend he never saw her. But his feet would not move. Instead, he stepped closer. She looked at him, lips trembling, trying to speak. Her voice was soft, broken, yet strangely beautiful. "Help. Me," she whispered. The words cut into his soul. She was not a monster. She was not here to harm him. She was weak, injured, desperate. She was asking him, a human stranger, for help. His chest tightened. He could see the fear in her eyes, the way she struggled to breathe. Without help, she would die here, alone in a strange world. But in the back of his mind, a dark thought whispered, if others were looking for her, they might come here soon. And if they found him with her, what would happen to him? Would they kill him? Would they destroy the town? His heart raced with questions he could not answer. He knelt beside her, torn between fear and compassion. She reached out a trembling hand, glowing faintly in the night, and touched his arm. Her touch was warm, gentle, and it broke the last of his hesitation. He could not leave her here. He could not walk away. Ethan lifted his head and looked around. The forest was dark, but in the distance he thought he saw shadows moving. The crash had been loud. It had drawn attention. And if she had enemies, They might already be on their way. The night that began in silence was now filled with danger. Ethan realized one truth with absolute clarity. By helping this alien lady, he was stepping into something far greater than himself. Something that could cost him his life. And yet deep inside, he knew he could not turn back. The universe had fallen at his feet in the form of a broken, frightened stranger. And Ethan, a simple man, now had a choice: abandon her, or risk everything to save her. Ethan's arms trembled as he lifted the alien woman. She was light, almost weightless, as if her body was made of something softer than flesh. Her skin glowed faintly against the darkness, like moonlight trapped in human form. He could feel her shallow breaths against his chest, each one weaker than the last. Every step away from the crash site felt heavier. Behind him, the wreck still burned, sending smoke into the sky. It was a beacon. Anyone, or anything, could follow it straight to them. Ethan's heart pounded in his ears. He knew he didn't have much time. The forest around him was alive with whispers, branches snapping, leaves rustling, animals fleeing from the noise. But beneath those natural sounds, he thought he heard something else. Something unnatural. A faint hum, metallic and sharp, as if machines were searching through the trees. He pushed himself to move faster. His small shelter was not far, a broken cabin at the edge of the forest. It wasn't much, but it was hidden. Maybe it would give them a little time. The alien lady stirred in his arms, her glowing eyes fluttering open for a moment. She tried to speak, her lips forming strange words that made no sense to him. Then suddenly, in broken English, she whispered just one word. Hunters. The sound of it froze Ethan's blood. Hunters. The word carried fear, warning, and urgency. He looked over his shoulder, but the forest gave no answer, only shadows and smoke. Yet he could not shake the feeling that something was already following them. By the time he reached the cabin, his lungs burned, and his legs felt like stone. He pushed the door open with his shoulder and laid her down on a pile of old blankets. She winced in pain but tried to sit up. Her body shook violently and she pressed a hand to a wound on her side. The glow from her skin dimmed as if her very light was slipping away. Ethan's hands moved on instinct. He fetched water, tore pieces of cloth, and tried to clean the wound. The blood, if it could even be called blood, was unlike anything he had seen. It shimmered, silver and blue, almost liquid light. It stained his hands, glowing faintly in the dark room. "You need help?" he whispered, though he wasn't sure if she understood. Her eyes met his, filled with desperation. She reached weakly toward her suit, pointing at strange symbols glowing faintly on the fabric. Ethan leaned closer. The suit wasn't just clothing. It looked alive, shifting slightly, like it was repairing itself but failing. When he touched one of the glowing symbols, it pulsed with light. A soft hum filled the room, and the alien woman gasped as if a small relief washed over her. Ethan pulled his hand back, startled, but she caught his wrist with surprising strength. "Stay, please," she whispered. The word tore at his chest. She was trusting him, depending on him. A stranger, a human she had never met, in a world not her own. Then, suddenly, a sound outside. Ethan froze. Through the thin wooden walls, he heard movement. Heavy footsteps, slow, careful, too heavy to be any deer or wild animal. His breath caught. He crept to the window and peered through a crack. Shadows moved among the trees, tall, unnatural shadows. Figures armored with glowing eyes like predators in the night. In their hands were weapons that glowed with the same deadly light as the wreckage. They scanned the ground, their heads turning like machines, their voices cold and metallic as they spoke in a language Ethan did not know. The hunters. Ethan's pulse hammered. They were here. They were looking for her. And if they found her, they would not spare him either. He backed away from the window, his mind racing. He had no weapons, no plan, just an old cabin and his courage. His eyes fell on the alien lady, lying weak but watching him with fear in her eyes. She shook her head slowly as if to warn him. "Do not fight them." But Ethan knew they couldn't just wait. If the hunters searched carefully, they would find the cabin. And when they did, there would be no mercy. He grabbed an old box from the corner, firecrackers left from a forgotten festival. They weren't much, but they made noise, and noise could be useful. His hands shook as he lit one and threw it far into the forest. A sharp crack exploded in the distance, then another. The hunters turned at once, their glowing eyes shifting toward the sound. With mechanical precision, they moved toward the noise, their footsteps fading into the night. Ethan held his breath. For now, it had worked, but only for now. He looked back at the alien lady. Her breathing had steadied slightly, her eyes fixed on him with a strange expression, half fear, half wonder. Perhaps she had not expected a human to risk himself for her. Ethan sat beside her, listening as the forest grew quiet again. But deep down, he knew silence was not safety. The hunters would return. They would not stop until they found her. And Ethan had just crossed a line. He was no longer an outsider. By helping her, by standing between her and the hunters, he had become a target too. For the first time, Ethan understood the truth. This was not just about saving a wounded stranger. This was about survival, his and hers. The cabin was dark, but Ethan's fear made every shadow feel alive. He sat near the alien woman, his ears straining for every sound outside. The firecracker trick had bought them time, but not safety. The hunters were clever, too clever to be fooled for long. The alien lady's breathing grew sharper. Her glowing skin flickered like a dying flame. She tried to speak, but her words slipped into a language Ethan could not understand. Still, her eyes told him everything. They will return. We must be ready. A sudden crack of wood outside made Ethan jump. He grabbed the only thing within reach, an old iron rod from the fireplace. His knuckles turned white as he gripped it. He knew it was useless against weapons that could probably burn through steel, but it was all he had. The door rattled. A faint hum echoed in the air, the sound of scanners sweeping through the trees. A red light passed across the window, making Ethan's heart skip. The hunters were close, very close. He turned back to her. "I'll get them away," he whispered. She shook her head weakly, eyes wide with fear, but Ethan forced a small smile. "I can't just sit here and wait." The hunters' footsteps grew louder, crushing leaves and branches under their heavy boots. Ethan's mind raced. If they found the cabin, it would be over. He needed to distract them again, but this time he had to lead them far away. He slipped outside quietly, the cold night air biting his skin. The forest smelled of smoke and damp earth. He crouched low, every step careful, until he spotted the hunters moving like shadows between the trees. Their armor gleamed with faint blue light, their heads scanning left and right. Ethan's stomach twisted. They were not human. Their bodies were tall, armored like walking machines, but their movements were too fluid for machines. Their glowing eyes pierced the darkness, and their voices, metallic, broken, sent shivers down his spine. One of them turned toward the cabin. Its weapon hummed, ready to fire. Ethan's throat went dry. If it fired, there would be nothing left. Inside, in desperation, he grabbed a stone and hurled it into the opposite direction. The rock struck a tree with a loud crack. The hunter's head snapped toward the sound instantly. A strange clicking language passed between them, and two of them moved toward the noise. Ethan's pulse hammered. He needed more than rocks. He pulled the last of the firecrackers from his pocket, lit one, and tossed it deep into the forest. The explosion echoed like a gunshot. The hunters charged toward it, their glowing weapons raised, but one stayed behind, watching, listening. Ethan's breath caught. He pressed his back against a tree, his body trembling. Slowly, the lone hunter turned its head toward him. The glowing eyes locked on his position. Panic shot through Ethan like fire. He bolted, crashing through the underbrush, the iron rod still in his grip. Behind him, the hunter roared, a sound like metal tearing, and gave chase. The forest exploded, with chaos. Birds fled into the night, Branches whipped Ethan's face as he sprinted, his lungs burning. He could hear the hunter's heavy steps pounding behind him, faster, closer. A beam of blue light shot past him, searing a tree trunk into ash. The smell of burning wood filled the air. He stumbled, nearly falling, but pushed himself forward. His mind screamed at him, "Keep running, don't stop." He darted down a narrow path, leaping over fallen logs. His legs ached, his breath ragged, but he didn't dare slow down. Another blast hit the ground near him, dirt and fire spraying into the air. The hunter's voice echoed behind him, a harsh command in its alien tongue. More voices answered in the distance. They were calling to each other. The others were coming. Ethan's chest tightened. He had led them away, but now he was trapped. He couldn't go back to the cabin, not with the hunters right behind him. If they followed, they would find her. He had to make a choice: keep running blindly, or fight. His eyes fell on a narrow gorge ahead. Rocks and roots twisted together, like a natural trap. If he could lead the hunter there, maybe he could slow it down. Maybe. He sprinted toward it, his legs screaming in protest. At the last second, he dove across the rocks and rolled into the gorge. The hunter followed, its heavy body crashing into the narrow space. Ethan swung the iron rod with all his strength, smashing it against the hunter's helmet. The sound rang out like striking metal. The hunter staggered, growling in its strange tongue, but it didn't fall. It turned its glowing eyes back to him, angrier than before. Ethan's chest heaved. He knew he couldn't win, but he also knew he didn't need to. He only needed time. He scrambled up the rocks, the hunter clawing after him. Another blast of light seared past his arm, close enough to burn his skin. Pain ripped through him, but he forced himself upward. At the top of the gorge, he hurled another firecracker down. The explosion lit up the night, echoing through the valley. For a brief moment, the hunter froze, its sensors overwhelmed by the sudden burst. Ethan used that moment to vanish into the trees. His body ached, his vision blurred, but he kept moving. Behind him, the hunters shouted to each other, their voices filled with rage. He collapsed against a tree, gasping for air. His body was shaking, his arms scorched, but he was alive. For now. The forest grew quiet again, but the silence no longer felt safe. He knew they would not stop. They would hunt him until they found her. And when they did, neither of them would survive. But Ethan's heart hardened with resolve. He had risked everything to keep her safe. And he would keep risking it again and again until he had nothing left. For the first time in his life, he realized he was not just running from danger. He was running toward something greater, something worth dying for. Ethan stumbled back, into the cabin at dawn, his body bruised, his arm burned from the hunter's blast. His legs nearly gave out, but he forced himself inside, closing the door behind him with a shaky breath. The alien woman stirred, her glowing eyes opening slowly. When she saw him covered in dirt and blood, her lips parted in shock. She tried to sit up, but the pain forced her back. "You came back," she whispered. Ethan gave a weak smile, though his chest ached with every breath. "I said I wouldn't leave you." Her eyes shimmered with something beyond gratitude. It was trust. Ethan sat beside her, trying to steady his breathing. He wanted answers. He needed them. The hunters were not ordinary enemies. They were organized, powerful, relentless. Why were they chasing her? Why risk so much just to kill one wounded woman? "Who are they?" he asked softly. "Why are they after you?" The alien woman closed her eyes for a moment, gathering strength. Then, with effort, she spoke. Her English was broken but clear enough to pierce through the haze of mystery. "They are Korith. Hunters," she said. "Warriors. Killers. They want me gone." Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to continue. She touched her chest with a trembling hand. "I am not soldier. I am daughter. Leader's daughter." Ethan blinked. "Daughter of a leader?" She nodded, weakly. "My people, in war. Enemies. Want my father weak. If I die, his heart breaks. His army. loses hope. Ethan's jaw tightened. The truth struck him like thunder. She wasn't just anyone. She was a key piece in a war that stretched across the stars. Killing her was not about revenge, it was strategy. He ran his hand through his hair, trying to make sense of it. So they came here, to hunt you, to make sure you never go back. Her glowing eyes locked on his. Yes. And you, now, in danger too. The weight of her words sank into him. By saving her, he had tied his fate to hers. The hunters would never stop. And now his life was bound to a war he didn't even understand. Ethan wanted to curse his own choices. But when he looked at her, so weak, so far from home, he knew he couldn't have done differently. He would never forgive himself if he had walked away. Then we'll fight, he said simply. Or hide, or whatever it takes. But I'm not leaving you. Her lips trembled, and for a moment her eyes softened. You risk everything. Ethan gave a tired chuckle. Seems like I already did. She leaned back, her breathing shallow. But then, with effort, she reached for a small device on her suit. She pressed a button and a faint hologram flickered above her hand. Ethan's eyes widened as he saw it. A map of stars, glowing softly in the dim cabin. She pointed to a cluster of lights, one brighter than the rest. Home, she whispered. Empire, strong but far. The map shifted, showing another cluster of stars, darker, red in color. Korith, she said, her voice sharp with fear. They want war. They want destruction. I carry key. Ethan frowned. Key? She touched the wound on her side. Her hand glowed faintly as if energy lived beneath her skin. Inside, me. Information. Code. Proof. It can stop. The war. The room grew silent. Ethan's heart thudded. She wasn't just the daughter of a leader. She was carrying something far greater, something that could decide the fate of countless worlds. He stared at her, unable to speak for a moment. Then finally, so if they kill you, they win the war. She nodded. Yes. Ethan leaned, back, the truth weighing on him like stone. He was just one man, a simple human with no army, no weapons, no training. And yet somehow the survival of this woman, and maybe the universe itself, was now in his hands. He laughed bitterly. Why me? Out of everyone on this planet, why did you have to fall in front of me? Her eyes softened. Fate, she whispered. Or choice. The words silenced him. He realized it didn't matter why. What mattered was what he would do next. Outside, the forest was still. But Ethan knew it was only the calm before another storm. The hunters would return, stronger, angrier, more determined. He looked at the alien woman again, at her glowing skin, her fragile strength. She was more than a stranger now. She was a responsibility, a chance to do something greater than himself. I don't know how, he said quietly. But I'll keep you alive, I promise. Her eyes closed slowly, a faint smile on her lips. For the first time since he found her, she looked at peace. Ethan, however, felt anything but peace. His promise had chained him to a battle far beyond his world, a battle that was already at his doorstep. And deep inside, he knew one thing for certain. Once the hunters came again, there would be no turning back. The forest was no longer silent. By nightfall, it breathed with danger. The hunters had returned. Ethan could feel it in the air, the faint hum of their machines, the low vibration beneath the ground, like predators circling their prey. Inside the cabin, the alien woman's glow flickered weakly. She was recovering, but far from strong. Her hand rested on the strange device sewn into her suit, and the faint pulse of light there told Ethan one thing. She was waiting. Waiting for her people to answer her call. But how long would that take? We don't have much time, Ethan whispered. His voice was steady, though his chest was tight. They're coming. Her glowing eyes found his. Fear lived in them, but also trust. Run, she whispered. Leave me. Live. Ethan shook his head sharply. Not happening. If they want you, they'll have to go through me first. A sound outside silenced them both. Heavy boots, branches breaking. Hunters were close. Ethan's mind raced. He had only a few old tools, an axe, some rope, and the half-burned firecrackers that had already saved him once. Against armored killers with energy weapons, it was nothing. But he had something they didn't: desperation. He moved quickly, setting traps around the cabin, rope across the doorway, a barrel tipped on its side ready to roll. Crude tricks, but tricks could buy time. Time was all they needed. The alien woman struggled to rise, but Ethan placed a firm hand on her shoulder. Save your strength, I'll handle this. Her voice was weak but sharp. You will die. He gave a faint smile. Maybe, but not before I make them bleed. The door shook violently. Dust fell from the roof. A metallic growl echoed outside. The hunters had found them. Ethan tightened his grip on the axe. His heartbeat pounded like a drum. Stay down, he whispered. The door burst open with a roar, splinters flying. A hunter stepped inside, tall and armored, its glowing weapon raised. Its eyes scanned the room, locking onto the alien woman. Ethan moved first. He swung the axe, with all his strength, the blade striking the hunter's arm. Sparks flew, the weapon clattering to the ground. The alien beast hissed in anger, backhanding Ethan across the room. He hit the wall hard, his ribs screaming in pain. But he got up. He always got up. The rope trap snapped tight, pulling the hunter off balance. Ethan grabbed the fallen weapon, but it was too heavy, too strange for him to fire. Instead, he slammed it against the ground, breaking the glowing core inside. A burst of light exploded, blinding the hunter long enough for Ethan to attack again. Another figure entered, then another. The cabin filled with shadows, glowing eyes, and deadly energy. Ethan fought like a man possessed. He swung, kicked, shoved, using every ounce of strength. The trap slowed them but didn't stop them. They were too strong, too many. A beam of light seared across his shoulder, burning flesh. Ethan screamed, but refused to fall. Blood ran down his arm, dripping onto the floor. Through the chaos, the alien woman cried out his name. Her voice was soft, fragile, but it pulled him back from the edge of despair. He saw her reaching for him, her eyes shining with something more than fear, something like hope. Ethan knew then, this was not about survival. This was about sacrifice. He turned, facing the hunters with wild eyes. You want her? He shouted, his voice raw. You'll have to kill me first. The hunters roared in reply, raising their weapons. Ethan charged. He slammed into the nearest hunter, tackling it into the wall. The force rattled the cabin, dust raining from the ceiling. Another hunter fired, the blast striking Ethan's back. Pain exploded through him, stealing his breath, but he held on. He forced the armored beast toward the barrel trap and kicked it loose. The barrel rolled down, slamming into the creature's legs and knocking it over. For every hit Ethan gave, he took two back. His body broke piece by piece. Cuts, burns, bruises. But his spirit refused to bend. He wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to delay. Minutes felt like hours. His vision blurred, his chest heavy. He staggered, nearly falling, as 3 hunters closed in. Their weapons glowed brighter, ready to end him. Then a sound split the sky. A low, thunderous hum. Light broke through the clouds, sharp and golden. Ethan's eyes widened. The alien woman gasped, her weak hands lifting toward the heavens. Her people were coming. The hunters froze, their heads snapping upward. The glow in their weapons flickered. Panic rippled through their metallic voices. Ethan dropped to his knees, blood running down his face. Relief washed over him like a wave. He had done it. He had given her the time she needed. He looked back at her one last time. She was smiling, small, faint, but real. Her eyes filled with tears as she whispered, "You saved me." The last thing Ethan felt before darkness claimed him was her hand reaching toward him, warm and gentle. And for the first time in his life, he did not fear death. The cabin was in ruins. Smoke curled through the broken roof. The wooden walls were scorched, glowing faintly with heat from alien weapons. The hunters stood like shadows in the haze, their glowing eyes fixed on Ethan's broken body. He was on his knees, his breath ragged, blood soaking his shirt. His axe lay broken at his side. Each inhale burned like fire. Each exhale came weaker, but even now he glared at them, refusing to bow. One of the hunters raised its weapon, the glow building for the final strike. The alien woman cried out, her voice raw with fear. She tried to rise, but her body failed her, forcing her back down, and then, light. A golden blaze tore across the sky, brighter than dawn. The earth shook, the air vibrated, and every hunter froze. Their glowing eyes shifted upward as the heavens split open. Ethan forced his head up. Through blurred vision, he saw it, a fleet descending from the stars. Sleek ships of silver and light, engines roaring like thunder. They cut through the clouds with elegance, their forms unlike anything human hands could build. The hunters hissed in panic. Their voices crackled with urgency as they stepped back, weapons raised. For the first time, they looked uncertain. A beam of light shot down from the largest ship, striking the ground near the cabin. The earth trembled and a pulse of energy surged outward, knocking the hunters off balance. The glow of their weapons flickered, sputtering weakly. Ethan collapsed onto his side, the world spinning around him. He tasted blood on his lips. His vision faded in and out, but he caught glimpses, silver-armored figures stepping out of the light, weapons shining like crystal blades. They moved with speed and grace, surrounding the hunters in perfect formation. The alien woman's people had arrived. The battle was swift, almost unreal. The silver warriors clashed with the hunters, light against shadow, energy against fire. Sparks and beams lit the forest like a storm of stars. Ethan watched in fragments, his eyelids heavy, his body begging for rest. One hunter tried to break through, charging toward the cabin, but a silver warrior leapt in front of it, striking. With a blade of pure light, the hunter fell, its armor split, its body crumbling into ash. Another turned to flee, but a ship's cannon fired, vaporizing it before it could escape. The hunters, once fearless, were now prey. Within minutes, the forest was silent again, except for the hum of the alien fleet above. Ethan's body trembled, his strength gone. He felt a gentle hand on his face. Forcing his eyes open, he saw her, the alien woman kneeling beside him, her tears glowing as they fell on his skin. "You stayed," she whispered, her voice shaking. Ethan tried to smile, though his lips were cracked and dry. "Told you, I wouldn't leave." His voice was barely a breath. Her hands glowed faintly as she pressed them against his wounds. Warmth spread through his chest, easing the burning pain. But she was weak, too weak to heal him fully. Panic flashed in her eyes. "Help him," she cried out in her language. Two silver warriors rushed forward, placing a device against Ethan's body. A surge of light flooded through him. His back arched, a scream tearing from his throat as his body lit up with energy. Then suddenly, the pain eased. His breathing steadied, his wounds closing slowly. The device pulled back, dimming. Ethan collapsed into stillness, his chest rising and falling in weak but steady rhythm. The alien woman sobbed softly, relief washing over her. She leaned close, whispering, "You live. You live." Ethan's eyes opened halfway. He saw her face, close to his, her silver glow soft against the ruin of the cabin. He wanted to speak, to tell her he was glad she was safe, but the words caught in his throat. His body begged for rest. Above, the alien fleet hovered, their lights piercing the night. The hunters were gone, their threat erased. But Ethan knew the truth. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. As he drifted toward unconsciousness, he caught her voice again, soft and filled with promise. "You risked everything. My people will not forget." her words wrapped around him like warmth, pulling him into darkness. For the first time since this nightmare began, he allowed himself to let go. The universe had answered his sacrifice. The universe had saved them both. And when Ethan woke again, he knew his life would never be the same. Not the silence of the forest, heavy with fear, but a softer silence like the calm after a storm. His eyes fluttered open, and for a moment he thought he was dreaming. Above him stretched a ceiling of silver light, smooth and glowing like a living sky. Strange symbols shimmered across the walls, flowing like water. He tried to sit up, but a gentle warmth held him down. Looking to his side, he realized he was lying on a bed that seemed to float above the ground, glowing faintly. His wounds were gone. His body, once broken, now felt whole, though weak, as if every muscle remembered the fight he had survived. Then he saw her. The alien woman stood nearby, dressed now in shining armor of her people, her silver glow brighter than before. She was no longer the fragile, broken figure he had carried through the forest. She looked regal, powerful, yet her eyes softened the moment they met his. "You live," she whispered, her voice carrying both relief and joy. Ethan managed a smile. "Guess I'm harder to kill than I look." She came closer, her movements graceful, her hands glowing faintly as if still ready to heal him. "You saved me. You saved my people's hope." Ethan's brow furrowed. I only tried to keep you alive." Her eyes sparkled. "That was enough. More than enough." The door slid open without sound, and a group of her people entered. They were tall, their silver armor reflecting light like liquid metal. Their faces were stern, their eyes glowing faintly like hers. Yet when they looked at Ethan, they did not see an outsider. They bowed their heads in respect. Ethan blinked, confused. "What are they doing?" She placed a hand on his arm. "Honoring you. You risked everything for one of us. That is rare. That is precious." One of the armored figures stepped forward, carrying a crystal-like object that pulsed with soft light. He spoke in their language, but the woman translated. "They say you are not just human, you are warrior. Protector, you are now part of our story." Ethan stared at the crystal as it was placed gently beside him. It glowed brighter when his hand brushed against it as if recognizing him. "What is it?" he asked. Her lips curved into a small smile. "Knowledge. A gift. It carries memories, wisdom, maps of stars. To us it is priceless. To you, it is a key to the universe." Ethan's heart pounded. He was just a man from a small town, someone who lived quietly with no dreams beyond tomorrow. And now the universe was opening itself to him. "I don't understand," he whispered. "You don't need to," she replied gently. "You only need to accept it. You gave without asking. Now the universe gives back." For a long moment, Ethan sat in silence, staring at the glowing crystal. He remembered the night in the forest, the fire in the sky, the fear, the hunters, the pain. He remembered thinking he would die, but he had chosen to stay, chosen to protect her, and somehow that choice had changed everything. He looked back at her. "What happens now?" Her expression grew solemn. "Now I must return to my people. The war is not over, but with what I carry, and with you, we have a chance." Ethan blinked. "With me? I'm no soldier. I'm just me." She shook her head slowly. "You are more. You are proof. Proof that humans, your kind, are brave, selfless, willing to fight for someone not their own. That matters. It changes how my people see your world." Ethan's chest tightened. He had never thought of himself as special, but now standing before him was someone from another world, someone who saw worth in him that he had never seen himself. She stepped closer, her hand resting gently against his chest. "You risked everything for a stranger. For that, the universe repays you." Not with riches, not with glory, but with a place among the stars. His throat tightened. And what if I don't belong out there? Her eyes softened. You already proved you do. The silence stretched between them, warm and heavy with meaning. Then slowly, Ethan nodded. All right, I'll go. Wherever this takes me. A smile spread across her face, brighter than any star he had ever seen. Outside the ship, through a wide window of glass-like crystal, Ethan saw the earth below. Small, fragile, beautiful. For the first time, he felt both connected to it and beyond it. He was no longer just a man from a quiet town. He was part of something greater. As the ship rose higher, stars filled the sky. The alien woman stood beside him, her presence steady, her eyes shining with promise. Ethan placed his hand on the glowing crystal once more. Its light pulsed, warm and alive, as if welcoming him. And in that moment, he realized a truth that would stay with him forever. One human's courage could change the fate of worlds. The universe had tested him, and he had answered.